Okay, in this video we're just going to look at using lenses for smaller sensor cameras on the Panasonic GH6, but this does apply to older cameras like the Panasonic GH5 and so on. So one of the really nice things about the MFT or Micro Four Thirds platform is just the adaptability of the lenses. You can fit pretty much just about any lens onto this camera system, whether it's through adapters, speed boosters and so on. You know, you've got like almost unlimited options for what kind of lenses you want to use across any brand. And we covered this a little bit in the vintage lens video, which I'll link up to in the corner. So if you haven't seen that, that's probably worth checking out just to kind of get a bit of background on this. But specifically in this one, we're going to look at mounting sort of lenses that are designed for smaller sensors. So for example, in this video what we're going to do is look at mounting a C-mount lens. So if you haven't heard of kind of C-mount, they're generally used for things like kind of CCTV cameras and that sort of thing. They're designed usually for kind of 1-inch sensors, so the kind of crop factor you'll get on that compared to full frame is around 2.7. So our MFT camera itself, or Micro Four Thirds camera, is a 2x crop compared to full frame. So the lens has more of a crop than the camera. So we're just going to look at how we can kind of make that work, you know, and just overcome the challenges of that. So essentially the issue we come across is that the field of view of the lens is less than that of the sensor or the camera. So what we're kind of left with, what we need to do, obviously, again, we went through this in the vintage lens one, but you can see how small the adapter for this is. It's just a screw mount, absolutely tiny. So to get this to work, let's just put that back in. To get this to work, we'll just need some form of adapter. So I've just got a cheap C-mount to MFT adapter, and you just screw that side in. Just make sure it's fairly locked. Take the lens off the camera. There's a little red indicator on most of these adapters just to tell you where to drop your lens in. And you'll find if you're taking these things on and off all the time, it's probably a good idea to be cleaning the sensor on the camera, because it can get quite dirty. So I think there's a video actually, I'll link up in the corner to that, about doing sensor cleaning. Sorry, I've just lost focus. Yeah, so once the lens is on and attached, we can switch the camera on, and this really specifically is more for kind of video, a lot of this, but it does work in a way for photography, depending on how you're working. So once we've attached this, what you should be able to see, it's quite dark because it's a kind of strange lens to be using, but what I'll do, if I just grab this map a second, you should be able to see just around the edges that we've got these kind of, if you're looking here, you can see we've got this kind of vignetting on the edges. So if I put that back over, you can see we're sort of, we're losing part of the image. But this is actually in using the whole sensor area of the camera. So we're using 5.8K there. What we can do is we could jump in and we could kind of say, well, if we use 4K, so that gives us all the way up to, for me, I'm on PAL, 100 frames a second. If you're on NTSC, 120 frames a second. And then you can see it's still the same, because we're still using the full sensor readout. But if we jump in and we change that from full sensor to pixel, and again, we've covered this in another video, so I'll link to that up in the corner, sort of using pixel to pixel and why you might use it. You can see now all our edges are clean, so we've actually got effectively that kind of vignetting around the edges is all kind of gone. So we've lost that sort of effect that was being created by the smaller lens. One really nice feature about the Lumix cameras is that we do have that. So we've got the ability to kind of punch into the sensor, and like I say, you can do this on other cameras like the GH5, 5S, and the 5 Mark II, and it's it can be really useful. So you do have for photography. It's not. It may not be as useful for people, but you can punch into the sensor using XTeleconvert, which is actually, if you've got one of the older cameras like the GH5, that's actually what pixel to pixel is called on that camera. So you wouldn't be looking for pixel to pixel; you'd be looking for XTeleconvert to kind of punch into the sensor. But that's going to give you, it's going to alleviate some of those issues you do get with these kinds of lenses. And then, like I said, this is a bit of a dark lens, but you can kind of see now. I'll just flick this light on, and then you should be able to see on there. It's probably actually a little bit, it's too bright really, but you can kind of see that we've got a fairly clean image. I mean, it is way too bright, but we've actually got something that's sort of thereabouts kind of usable. And like I say, you can create some really kind of nice things with some of these lenses, because you can get some really kind of interesting things that you might not be able to get with things that are just on the MFT market. So I really like that you can add some of these kind of quirky, weird lenses to the camera, just to give you some different shooting options. And they're not always practical. Again, we covered in the vintage lens video that some of them are they can be a little difficult to work with in terms of aperture and focus and things like that. But you can get some really kind of nice creative shots from them. And if you're just doing short videos or bits where it's quite controlled, then they can be really great sort of bits to work with, and they're all fairly cheap. I'm going to do a bit of a video about this lens because it's a bit of a strange one, so probably not interesting to everyone, but it's it's been quite a good lens to work with, and like I say, it's a pretty cheap little option, and you can get some really interesting shots with it. So if this video's helped, then please give it a like, and if you want to kind of see more about this kind of stuff or more about the GH6, then please subscribe.